Hi, this is Chapter 6 of Call of the Wild, Leader of the Pack. I told you about Buck. He is two devils, Francois said. He found out Spitz was missing. He saw that Buck was hurt. That Spitz fought like crazy, Perrault said. He checked Buck's wounds. Now we'll make good time, Francois said. There won't be any more fighting. Francois harnessed the dogs. Buck trotted up to the front. He wanted to take Spitz's place, but Francois didn't notice him. He brought Sol-leks to the lead. Buck attacked Sol-leks. Look at him, Francois cried. He killed Spitz. Now he thinks he should take the job. Go away. But Buck didn't move. Francois dragged Buck to one side. He put Sol-leks in place. Buck pushed Sol-leks out. Francois became angry. Now I'll fix you. He came toward Buck with the club. Buck recalled the man in the red sweater. He circled just out of reach of the club. He snarled. Francois left Buck alone. He went about his work. Soon he called to Buck. He tried to put him in his old place. Buck moved back. Francois threw down his club. He thought Buck was afraid, but Buck was revolting. He wanted to be the lead dog. He had earned the right. The men ran Buck around for almost an hour. He would get what he wanted. Francois shrugged his shoulders. The men were beaten. Sol-leks took his old place. The only place left for Buck was in front. Francois called to Buck. He came. His straps were put on. Soon they were off and running. Buck was a good leader. He was a good thinker. He acted fast. He was a better leader than Spitz. The team's mood picked up. The dogs worked like one. At the Rinks Rapids, 2 huskies were added. Buck trained them quickly. Never has there been such a dog as Buck, Francois cried. He's worth $1,000. What do you think, Perrault? Perrault nodded. He was pleased with the team. They were making good time. They arrived in Skagway in record time. Perrault and Francois received new orders. Francois called Buck to come to him. He threw his arms around the big dog. He wept over him. That was the last Buck saw of Francois and Perrault. They left Buck's life forever, like all the other men. A Scotsman came along. He took charge of Buck and the team. They started back over the trail. They carried heavy mailbags. They got very tired. They got to Dawson, but they were in poor shape. They should have gotten at least a week's rest. But 2 days later, they were back on the trail. The dogs were tired. The drivers grumbled. It snowed every day. The soft snow made pulling harder, but the drivers treated them well. Every night the dogs were fed first. Then the men ate. The men took care of the dogs' feet, but the dogs were losing strength. They had traveled 1,800 miles. Buck kept the team going, but he was very tired too. Dave suffered most of all. When he had to start pulling, he would cry out in pain. Soon, Dave kept falling. He was so weak. They stopped. The Scotsman took Dave out. He wanted him to rest, but Dave's pride was hurt. He didn't want another dog to do his work. The sled started up. Dave refused to run behind. He kept trying to get back into the traces. Finally, he grew too weak, and he fell. He lay panting in the snow. He howled sadly as the team moved away. The sled was stopped. The Scotsman walked back to Dave. A gunshot rang out. The man came back. The sled started again. But Buck and the others knew what had happened.